And it's your boy Dabrand knows, and you already know today is Monday.
Monday is the worst, first day of the week. Always seem to feel I never get enough sleep. Tuesday's the one day, feels like a Sunday, and if it wasn't for Monday, I wouldn't even notice. Wednesday's the hump day, get you out the slump day. Thursday's the day before that bread, so you pump day. Friday's the next direct deposit, and now it's the weekend, and you didn't realize it.
My 2 days off, my 2 days off. I got my two.
Yeah, you already know.
I got my two.
Yes, sir. Let's get it. Let's
I
go.
got my 2 days off, my 2 days off. I got my two.
Check it
I
out.
got my two.
Check it
I
out.
got my
Monday is the worst, first day of the week. Always seem to feel I never get enough sleep. Tuesday's the one day that feels like a Sunday, but if it wasn't for Monday, I wouldn't even notice. Wednesday's the hump day, get you out to something. Thursday's the day before that bread, so you come day. Friday's the next direct deposit. It's the weekend, baby, didn't realize it.
2 days off, my 2 days
Y'all
off.
already know. We got T's and tails on the motherfucking ones and twos. About to drop that article one. Check it.
2 days off, my 2 days off. I got my two.
1, 2.
I got my two.
40 rolls, let's go.
Monday is the worst, first day of the week. Always seem to feel I never get enough sleep. Tuesday's the one day that feels like a Sunday, and if it wasn't for Monday, I wouldn't even notice. Wednesday's the hump day, get you out the slump day. Thursday's the day before that bread, so you come day. Friday's the next direct deposit. It's the weekend, and you didn't realize
My
it.
2 days off.
And we gone. Teacher Tells, what you got on the plate for us to eat, girl?
They are scrambling, okay? Now a new story has to be. People are looking at the 4:30 departure time. They are looking at everything. On top of that, there has been so much developments in the last week. For instance, we thought the victim was Nolan, the person that's dead.
Yes.
We thought the victim was Nolan's mama, the
She
person that
is.
has to actually live with her son not being there. We thought the victims were Nolan's families, his little brothers. I don't know if he has a sister, but his siblings, and of course his dad. However, in the last week, the citizens of Townsville, I'm joking, the citizens of Ocean Springs have come out and told us that we had it all wrong. The real victims are those 3 boys. The real victims are the family's reputation. The real victims are the inanimate object that we like to call Ocean Springs, Mississippi. The family's reputation. We're going to get into this newest mea culpa. They're going. I don't understand. It's very. Listen, I have evidence for the decoy Nolan, what it means and how it blows the stories apart even more. All right? We're going to talk about where it plays in the investigation. We're going to talk about the brave people that actually came forward to identify the decoy Nolan and the fact that they don't live in Ocean Springs. We're going to talk about the veil of silence that seems to have descended upon Ocean Springs. And I also want to show you guys evidence and talk about this whole thing that seems to me to be very, 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 what is the word? Very, very, very narcissistic, if you will, okay? It seems to be very narcissistic, if you will, because how is it that they have come out and for the last 2 weeks, it appears to me that they have been trying to bully everybody into not talking about Nolan. The feds have gotten involved. They are arresting people. Again, if you are making theft threats, okay, fine, fair enough. But it is very, very, very odd to me that they have centered themselves as the true victims, the true people suffering. And once it seems like social media was like, you guys are looking like weirdos, you're acting like weirdos, then they want to go out to Horn Island to investigate. But their investigation makes them look even more weird. Again, I still have not seen anybody on the boys' side explain why finding out what happened to Nolan Springs is going against the town of Ocean Springs. Did the town of
Nolan
Ocean Springs have
Springs?
something to do with Nolan?
Nolan Springs? Tisha, you be misspeaking your words a lot. It's Nolan Wells, not Nolan Springs. Okay? Okay, cool. Okay, boo boo. Okay.
His appearance. Why are they even in this? But anyway, let's get into the fake decoy Nolan that was actually found from a brave person stepping forward and actually speaking the truth. And I think moving forward, that's what's going to happen. Brave people are going to step forward and say the truth. Okay? Now, just to let you know where we are in our own independent investigation, because if those boys can do an investigation, we can do investigations too. Just to let you know where we are in our investigation, a boat left the island sometime between 4 and 4:31 p.m. It had all of Nolan's friends, I believe, he had gone down there with. Everybody got home safely except for Nolan. Oddly enough, even though there seemed to be only a handful of black people at the island, all of them men, not one black woman. I guess they should be glad, because we would have had that. We would have had that case wrapped up in 3 to 5 business days. Yes, I'm gonna tell you what was happening out the corner of my eye. I saw boop, 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 boop. And then this happened, this happened, this happened. All right, we're going to wrap this up, right?
In other words, those blacks that were there, a bunch of cowards.
But all jokes aside, magically, right, after that boat left for an emergency, to which it wasn't an emergency because the family said no, Wyatt said he was drowning. His granddaddy was like, let them drown. They don't need help. Bart was on the boat helping them not drown. They said the engine was submerged, but then they drove around for the rest of the day, because when it comes to boats, if an engine does get water on it, it needs to be formally dried out before you can use it again. But I guess they have super boats that don't work on this earth. But magically, when that boat left, it is very, very, very odd to me that when that boat left, it's very odd to me that no one, not one person, saw Nolan alive until the Cajun Navy report came out. And random people were saying, we saw Nolan, we saw Nolan. And the Cajun Navy took a snapshot of the person that they thought was Nolan, right? But that has been debunked, because look at God's glory. Look at what happened. I want you guys to watch this really quick. Then we'll discuss. Then we'll move into what this actually means for the boys' investigation, for our investigation, for the police investigation, and for Benjamin Crump's investigation. Let's get into this, all right?
I'm just here to debunk a photo that was going around. It was in...
Really quick, this is the TikTok detective. Make sure you follow her. She actually did the work. She was on the Facebook groups. Yes, we credit
The
content creators for when they go to
detective.
Facebook, and
On
we're
the
not.
case.
She was on the Facebook group in the comments, right? And she found this. Pay attention, and then we'll go into detail how this all clicks together.
the Cajun Navy report. This is the photo that is zoomed in.
Let me just pause that, and I'll zoom in for you guys. 1 second. This is the photo right there. You see 1, 2, 3 women with paler skin, 1 male with paler skin, and you see a male behind her in what looks like blue swim trunks. And this is what the Cajun Navy and many people showed as proof that Nolan was actually on the island after the boat left at around 4 o'clock p.m., sometime between 4 and 4:31 p.m. when the boat left. This is the proof that everybody's been showing that Nolan was in fact there. And on top of that, we need to accept that he was intoxicated to the point of he didn't want his shoes, he didn't want his shirt, he didn't want his cell phone, even though there was cell phone service on Horn Island. He didn't want anything. He was heavily drunk. And when they were telling him to get on the boat, well, Warren didn't see him, but he heard him. His friends yelling, Warren, get the F on the boat. I'm sorry, Nolan, get the F on the boat. Nolan, get the F on the boat. Nolan refused and insisted on staying there. And his friends left a heavily intoxicated person there. But this is the picture that a lot of people have been saying is certifiable proof that Nolan was still there. Now, spoiler alert, we know this is not the real Spoiler alert, we know this is not the real Nolan, but let's get into this, okay?
Basically saying that that could have been Nolan. So in the Cajun Navy report, they have this photo on there saying that the newly supplied photograph is represented as having been taken at 4:50 Central on 4th of July. 19 minutes after the boat left. However, if you look
Don't
on
even
that
look like
bottom
Nolan, y'all.
line, it says Nolan possibly is in this photo,
Let me show
but
y'all.
not
Let me
confirmed.
close up in this
That
way.
is not Nolan. It is confirmed. This woman right here is confirming that this is not Nolan. She says, "This is not Nolan. This is my son with his friend. We're from Olive Branch, and we're visiting family over the 4th."
That is
So
not
I still
Nolan.
have
See,
yet
every
to
black
see
guy is
any
not Nolan.
confirmed photo of Nolan Wells on Horn Island after 4:31 p.m. when the boat left.
Now, why
I'm just here
is
to
this? Hold on, let me
debunk
just pause this. Why is this actually so important? Because I showed you a video yesterday from Truth Has No Name, and he is very involved in social justice, and he knows a lot about procedure. As a matter of fact, I can show you better than I can tell you. Hold on, let me put him on really quick, okay?
Him drowning, coming onto my page spewing propaganda and misinformation and crap. Listen, I was trying to be fair until y'all started talking. I was trying to be fair until y'all reminded me of so many inconsistencies in y'all stories and y'all doing all the talking. To take us off the scent trail of Nolan Wells, stop. Just stop. It's now a cover-up. It could have been an accident. I think it was an accident. But the cover-up is going to get all of y'all. Watch. So let's talk procedures, because that was my premise of my argument. Do you remember
Olive Branch, and we're visiting family over the 4th. So I still have yet to see any confirmed photo of Nolan Wells on Horn Island after 4:31 p.m. when the boat left.
Now, why
I'm just here
is
to
this? Hold on, let me
debunk
just pause this. Why is this actually so important? Because I showed you a video yesterday from Truth Has No Name, and he is very involved in social justice, and he knows a lot about procedure. As a matter of fact, I can show you better than I can tell you. Hold on, let me put him on really quick, okay?
him drowning, coming onto my page spewing propaganda and misinformation and crap? Listen, I was trying to be fair until y'all started talking. I was trying to be fair until y'all reminded me of so many inconsistencies in y'all stories and y'all doing all the talking. To take us off the scent trail of Nolan Wells, stop. Just stop. It's now a cover-up. It could have been an accident. I think it was an accident. But the cover-up is going to get all of y'all. Watch. So let's talk procedures, because that was my premise of my argument. Do you remember, what's that young lady name? Casey Anthony? She was in handcuffs one day after her daughter was reported missing. Not for murder, but for lying. And what about that guy named Brian Welsh? He was held 4 days, and the charge, it was misleading investigator. He is currently serving life right now. And lastly, what about that Lori Vallow girl who sat in jail for 4 months because before they even found her children? Procedure. That was my argument. Procedures. It's called collateral charge. It's not saying that y'all guilty, but basic procedures. Every state has it. You don't need the cause of death. You need one person whose story that doesn't match or doesn't hold up. So Jackson County, did all accounts match up? No. Other witnesses' story match up? No. Stories don't even match. And if they match, why don't you publicly say so? If you flip the skin color, if 3 black teenagers came back from Horn Island and...
Now, let me just stop him right there, because he's making some very good points. Keep in mind, he is not accusing anybody. Nobody is accusing anybody. We don't know what happened to Nolan. Before we get into who might have done something for him, we need to find out what happened. I do find it odd that they are going hard at us for even wondering what happened. But this goes into procedure. Stories not matching up.
Pause. I got a story. 140th Street. It was an Easter Sunday. Yeah, I'm in the middle of something. Right. All right. Give me a second. Yeah. Easter Sunday. We go up to we chase a bunch of dudes up to St. Nicholas Park. We get up there, they outnumber us. They chase us back down the hill. Right? But as they coming down the hill, they trickling off. So they bunch is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as we getting closer and closer to our block. By the time they realized they was in the middle of the hornet's nest, it was too late. Right? We'll admit, we beat blood out these motherfuckers. We beat blood out of them. Stripped them butt ass naked, took their clothes, threw them shits in abandoned buildings, sent them niggas packing. But guess what happened? They came back with the police, right? And they just started pointing at motherfuckers. They was pointing at people that wasn't even there. And guess what happened? Police rounded up everybody they pointed at until they figured it out. And it was gang fights, y'all. And this was a time when there was no cameras, none of that. But they snatched everybody up. Everybody they thought was involved. They felt like you had something to do with it. They grabbed you. Here it is, 2026 cameras all up and down, the horn, straight up moves, this, that, and third. A man with Warren and them said it was 1,000 people on the shore and all this and X, Y, and Z, right? And nobody ain't got picked up yet, man. Nobody ain't got picked up yet. Not even the people that took you out there, left you there. Mississippi is about to be burning. Mississippi about to be burning, y'all.
Witnesses that are saying that they saw Nolan around 4:50 and 6 o'clock. They are actually referring to this man.
I'm just here to debunk a photo that was going around. It was in the Cajun Navy report.
They are actively referring to this picture with this gentleman as proof that Nolan was there. Now, we can argue, you guys see a tall, dark-skinned male and you assume that person is 18. Fine, whatever. Maybe you guys never saw Nolan. However, what do we have? According to all accounts that saw Nolan, and this photo was the proof, the photo and a bunch of moms playing like finger warriors in Facebook comment section saying that was Nolan. It is now either a fake Nolan or a decoy Nolan. And again, because this brave woman, Rena Denon Montgomery, came forward and said, and again, keep in mind, she doesn't live in Ocean Springs. Remember how Tracy said Ocean Springs will always stick to Ocean Springs? Because, okay. She said, this is not Nolan. This is my son with his friend. We are from Olive Branch, Mississippi, and we're visiting family over the 4th. So, it has now been debunked that anybody in those Facebook groups that said they saw Nolan actually saw Nolan after the boat left. Because the picture they're all proving to show, no, we saw Nolan and he was hanging out with a girl and blah, 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 blah. That wasn't even Nolan. Whether they knew that they were trying to push forward a narrative about a decoy Nolan, a fake Nolan or not, it has now been debunked. So now, and this goes back into Truth Has No Name on Instagram's point, now we have to go back into procedure. See, we're not asking for point a finger, show us who the guilty person is, give us the facts. We're asking for procedure to actually be mapped out. The stories are officially not matching up. No one out of an island of 200 people, no one out of an island of 200 people between 5 and 8 o'clock saw Nolan again. Nobody in an island of 200 people, and I would say between 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Why is that so important? Why is 8 so important? Because at 8 o'clock, Horn Island is what do you call it? A nature reserve. I do not believe there's lights and stuff on Horn Island. Horn Island, at 7:54 p.m. on July 4th is when the sun went down on Horn Island. Because the waters are very choppy, because there's no lights out of there, everybody left before sundown. So, from 4 o'clock, when those boys boats left, all the way until 8 o'clock, where the last boat would have left sometime between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock was complete nightfall. Nolan was not spotted once. The person that is listed in the Cajun report and that a lot of Facebook moms are saying is proof that Nolan was there, it's untrue. So now that we know that nobody saw this person after you left, now that we know, Warren said Wyatt unplugged the hole and plugged it and did all this stuff. Bart came out and said he did it. Everybody said they saw Nolan with an unidentified woman to the police. Everybody also said that Nolan was heavily drinking. However, the coach, a well-respected figure in the community, came out and said he had a long conversation with Nolan around sometime between 2:45 and 3:30 p.m. It was a long conversation, and Nolan did not seem a lick of drunk. He seemed completely sober, completely lucid. It was a long conversation about dreams, plans, goals, staying focused. Let's also not forget that Nolan he's a D1 athlete, and he had a very, very, very important tryout on Monday, okay? Let's also not forget Nolan was not known for drinking or being a drunk. Again, not that it would matter, but usually people that are heavy drinkers have a history of being a heavy drinker. I know people get into new situations and might drink more than they wanted to, but those are in new situations, not when you are chilling with all your childhood friends over 4th of July weekend in a tight, close-knit community. There's nothing to imply that Nolan would have started drinking for his nerves. And even if he did, where did Nolan, if the coach talked to him sometime between 2:30 and 3:30 p.m., where did Nolan get the alcohol? How did the alcohol get into his bloodstream so quickly? How much did he actually drink? So that when his friends told him, Nolan, get the F on the boat, which would have been about 30 minutes later, somewhere between 30 and 45 minutes later, after the coach just got done having a long conversation on him. How did the blood alcohol level hit your blood so strong, so mighty, that your friends looked at you and saw that you were heavily intoxicated to the point that you didn't want your shoes, you didn't want your shirt, you didn't want your phone on an island that has phone service, right? The stories are not adding up. Bart's story directly contradicts Warren's story. Warren's lawyer is now coming out and adding in 2 other people's names. I think Morgan, who's his little brother, and Jax Vitale, that we were like, where did these characters come in? What is actually going on? Okay? On the boat, they say they're sinking. They're begging for help from Cito. They can't answer simple questions about where are your coordinates, because GPS shows the coordinates were not really where they were. GPS coordinates. And also, you can't add up how many adults were on the boat with you. You don't want to answer that question. You avoid the question. You just keep saying, no, there's no children. There's no children. Finally, when Vicky gets sick of you, it seems like you get angry and you're like, no, there's no adults. But that's only after you had to think about it. A lot of thought for somebody whose boat is actively sinking. You didn't want the Coast Guard, right? You didn't want the Coast Guard. You're begging for help. Your grandfather at the same time is on the boat, on the call with Cito's captain. The person that you're begging to come get you saying, don't worry about it, you don't got to come get them. While you're on the boat begging for a pickup, a tow, your grandfather's on the other line saying, don't get them. And Bart is in front of your face actively getting the boat unsunk. Never mind a boat that is unsunk. Never mind that a boat that is sunk. You got to dry it out a little bit, right? Even if only half the engine was submerged, because that is what's sinking. And like you guys said, you know what a boat is. You guys have been on the water for your whole lives. Let's get to after that. You call Nolan's mom and tell her he's missing. At the same time, you don't tell her that you got his shoes, his shirt, his phone, and his car keys, but you know you do. Why, if you were looking for Nolan and you thought he was missing, why didn't you try to call his phone? Right? Why didn't you try to get in touch with him? What 18-year-old calls somebody's mama? When you're 18, what 18-year-old calls somebody's mom and says, yo, I think he's missing. Don't worry, we'll find him. After you got off the phone with her, you promptly proceeded to go to go chill. It wasn't until they showed up at about 1 o'clock in the morning. So you called her at 11 at night on July 4th. They showed up at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours after you got off the phone with Nolan's mama. Nolan's mom calls the police at 12. It's very important. Javon's mom and friends show up and be like, yo, where's Nolan's phone? You begrudgingly give the phone, right? And then you have to begrudgingly get car keys, right? Okay, fine. But now you're like, oh, I thought everybody was overreacting. I thought he was just drunk on someone's couch. If you thought he was drunk on someone's couch, why did you call his mom to tell her that her son was missing? Who would get a call from anyone saying, hey, your son's missing and we have his shoes, his shirt, and his phone and his car keys? And then you sit back down and have the nerve when the police come, because the mom's like, go find my baby. The police come. And the police are like, all right, so what's going on? When's the last time you seen him? This, that, and the third. And you sit there and say, I actually think everybody's overreacting. I think that he's asleep or drunk on somebody's couch. You're the one that started this. How can you think he's drunk? How can you think he's asleep? Not even that. You go to bed. You sleep like a baby. You wake up. No urgency. Everybody has boats. The 4th of July weekend was a big party weekend. People are out partying again. Let's also not forget that there were people on Horn Island for the entire July 4th weekend. Horn Island is a popular spot. Nobody saw Nolan when they came back the next day. These aren't friends. These are just random people. Nolan then washed up at the same spot that he supposedly disappeared from. And for people being on the island July 4th, okay, July 5th, July 6th, it wasn't until July 7th, which I believe is a Monday, after the whole holiday weekend is over. Let me just verify this. Pull up the Google Calendar. Okay, no, that's not right. Till July 4th was Saturday. July 5th was a Sunday. July 6th, it was a holiday weekend. I don't know if people were out there July 6th. And then magically, so even though it was a wash machine and he got pulled out the tide, he didn't come back the days people were there. He only showed up after the whole holiday party weekend was over on a Tuesday. It's very, very magical. Again, this goes into Truth Has No Name and what he is talking about procedure. There are so many conflicting stories. At the end of the day, the one thing they cannot explain, the one thing I believe they want this to go away, the one thing we cannot ignore is the fact that after the last time anybody saw Nolan is when you guys were on the island. And the last time anybody heard or saw Nolan is when your boat left the island. And after that, there was a fake decoy Nolan in a picture that people were saying that's Nolan, but it wasn't. It was just another dark-skinned male. And now that somebody who is not from Ocean Springs has come forward to say that's not Nolan, the stories, I don't know, they're about to change again. But let's keep going into what he said about procedure, because I know I cut him off, but I think he's making some good points. Hold on. 1 second.
It didn't. Their clothes would be in evidence bags. Their phones would be imaged. That boat processed from the stem to the stern, with blood forensics or cadaver dogs before sundown. Everyone knows this. That was my argument. Procedure.
Right, but see the people, the short people who keep sending this false information out. I don't know why they keep doing it. Right, they the ones who sent the picture saying that was Nolan. Right, they the ones sent the collaboration of the boats. Right, it seemed like everything they sent out is just some bullshit. Right, ain't it seeming like that? Seeming like everything they sent out is some bullshit, man.
Any state goes through its procedures. So you can't sit up here and tell us that a young dead man's keys and his phone shows up at your house on the coffee table near a gaming console. One of those young men's keys is in this bedroom, that their asses would not be taken.
And they didn't know how the keys was there. They got a phone call from a girl who's outside the house to tell them where the keys was on the inside. Come on, man. Who y'all playing with?
Taken downtown in custody for procedure. It's procedural work. Any law enforcement would do it. So miss me with your Mississippi white privilege. Mississippi law enforcement, you missed opportunity to test their clothing worn that day. You could have did forensic blood work, blood splatter.
And then they goes and they ask Crump and them, could they search the boat? So y'all know that's not their boats. Y'all know exactly who the owner of the boats are, right? Y'all know exactly who the owners of the boats are. But to make it look crazy in the public eye, y'all would come out here and say, well, we offered him cadaver boat dogs and sniffing dogs and all this other shit to sniff the boat, and he declined. How the fuck can you decline something that ain't even yours? It's not even his boat to give you permission to go in there with a dog, a cat, a rat, a bird, anything. Right? So this is the misdirection that they keep giving. Them same people, the same people that put out these pictures and put out the orchestration of the boats, and the people that put out the fake pictures of Nolan, and the people who offered to have the boats sniffed by the cadaver dogs. Those people, the same people, right? The same exact people. The same people. It's for some reason trying to confuse this situation up. You know what I mean? They knew that wasn't Ben Crump and Christina's boat. So why y'all going to them to ask them for permission to search the boat and all? It's not their boat. But y'all tried to put the blame on them. You know, they said they didn't want us to do it. They must be trying to lie. I mean, stop. Yo, Mississippi, stop playing Mississippi. Stop playing Mississippi. Mississippi, stop playing. Cause we don't play those type of games. You understand, man? It's about to hit your vein, man. It's about to hit your vein, man. Jesus Christ, this is frustrating, man. Cause if the shoe was on the other foot, we would be behind bars by now.
Procedures, damn it. Because you immediately said it was no foul play and likely said it was a drowning. So you effed up. You effed up what? The procedures. Did you test the boat? No. Procedures. What about the closing? Nope. Procedures. What about the house where the keys and the phone was found? Nope. Procedures. That was my argument the whole time. So don't come at me. Arrest these three gentlemen right now. Hell, if it was me, I would arrest them right now because of what? Procedures. I'll put an ankle monitor on them right now because they may skip town. It is a crime to know of a crime that you didn't report. Truth has no party. Y'all be well.
Crack a hose if it clucks.
So, that was Truth Has No Party on Instagram. Make sure you give him a follow. And of course, this is the Norma Jeans 5. I played this actually yesterday in the video, but it was so amazing. I want to play it one more time. And then there's another gentleman that is, and the reason I'm bringing out white males to talk on this is because I don't know what is going on in the water of Ocean Springs, but it seems like all the black men in Ocean Springs are like, because we can have mixed babies.
They like they butt broke or something, man. You understand? They coming out defending this like, hey, you can't come down here to Ocean Springs, Mississippi and claim that our white people are racist. We're having babies with these white bitches. You're crazy? We fucking these bitches. And them white boys are fucking these black bitches. We getting along down here. Don't come down here with that racism shit now. And 2 days later, you find another girl hanging from a motherfucking tree to the point where you got to get a ladder to get her down. And they claim that was a suicide.
There's no racism, at least the ones that have trotted out on Officer Tatum. And they seem to have no recollection of their history at all and what's going on. And that scares me. But then again, I don't live in Mississippi, so.
This dude got on here and told a stupid ass story to my, yeah, you know, I was the first person to cut his hair, man. You know, man. Yeah, yeah. But we used to tell him every time he left the barber shop, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And he would say, he would say, it was just so funny, man. He would say, Nolan Wells. So let me get this straight, fat boy. You was the first person to cut this boy hair. You said you watched this boy grow up. You're still playing basketball in the gym with his uncle or some crazy nonsense you tried to put a trade pause corners, right? But when he turned up dead under these type of circumstances, you jump out there and buck for the white boy? You jump out there and buck for the Caucasian? You jump up there and buck for the suspects? Even though it looked like they did this shit, my man? I'm pretty sure this dude barbershop is shut down by now, right? Since he did his little spew, his barbershop is gone, right? Ain't nobody going in there for no more barbershop, no haircuts, right? Yeah? Cause he said he was the first one to cut Nolan Wells' hair. And then turn around, and bark for the white boy. Man, y'all down there is butt broke, Mississippi.
You know, thoughts and prayers. But here's my whole point. I think we're getting away from the main thing that I think we need to focus on. 1 second, guys.
Like a chicken, it's a chicken. And if it Ku Klux is like the Klan, then it's the Klan. Because it's not just Sheriff John Ledbetter who said that they're not going to work on the family's timetable and they're going to do a thorough investigation that seems to be yielding no results. Or Dr. Stacy Turner, the state medical examiner for Mississippi, the chief examiner, wants to remove parts of Nolan Wells, God rest his soul, his trachea and his larynx or organs in his body before they ship his body off to D.C. for an independent autopsy.
I got to pause that right there because he brings up a good point. The actual arrogance and lack of empathy for the sheriff to tell a mother who's looking at her dead son, who had a promising future, right? That they're not going to work on her timeline. Sir, whose timeline are you looking for? Are you trying to solve this or not? Off the bat, it seemed like Mississippi was highly antagonistic, highly annoyed, highly on some dumb-ish, and it seemed like they were completely annoyed that Christine did not accept the sheriff's first thing, that within an hour of finding his body, that he was heavily intoxicated, and that he had drowned accidentally from being drunk. On top of that, can we please talk about his friends are one of the main reasons why the search people didn't go out that night, because they somehow told the police, everybody's overreacting. He's just drunk on somebody's couch. Again, procedures. Why are these things? They said that it was an unidentified woman who was with Nolan. We then find out that it was Katie. So you said unidentified woman, but y'all know who Katie was.
It was Katie, Katie, the girl, Katie. That's what he said, right? Like he was just some horny, drunk little black monkey walking around on Horns Island, ready to freak off in the middle of the public, in front of, 1,000 people on the beach. Huh? What? He had no swim trunks. Man, he ain't had no money in his pocket. He ain't had no money, he ain't had no phone, he ain't had no clothes, he ain't had no shoes, he ain't had no car keys, he ain't had no phone, he ain't had nothing. How you wind up like that, man? How you wind up like that, man? Unless somebody put you in that position. You heard me? Let's go.
The woman y'all gave the police that y'all thought it was, she said, yeah, I know Nolan, but I haven't seen or heard from him in a year. And as a matter of fact, I was partying on a different island. On top of that, we find out Trayston said in Officer Tatum's interview, and in the police report, a bunch of the friends said she's unidentified. Nolan had just met this girl. He really liked her. The family is like, you mean Katie? We know Katie. Katie's been like this with the family. She's been at many family functions. Katie is family. But let's continue. Again, procedures. There's too many missing holes.
Or Judge Ashley Cole with the Mississippi state flag in the background, the OG one that gave homage to the Confederate flag. Yeah, that one. Yeah, she wants to say in advance her son is innocent, but she's adjudicating nothing. And I just have so many questions, but then I remember what happened to the Klan. The Klan are your doctors, your lawyers, and your judges, your sheriff, your police commissioner, all of these things. That is where the Klan went. It didn't go away, it didn't vanish and disappear. They're still in society and they hide their face like clowns behind masks and robes. Sweetheart, they hide them behind badges, they hide them behind the stethoscope, they hide them behind the gavel in a courtroom.
And that's sad that a ginger man had to treat all these men coming out of Ocean Springs, talk about we can have mixed babies, ain't no racism. You are blind from your truth. But at this point, please stay in your struggle. We just want to find out what happened to Nolan. We don't need your opinion on race relations. We don't need your opinion on whether there's racism in Mississippi, because we can pull it on back. Yes, there is. People are being found in trees left and right down there. But we don't also need that. All we need is an answer to what happened to Nolan. It seems like they are completely trying to distract us. And this brings me to this, right? This is, this is Leroy _ Tennessee on Instagram. I wanted to show you, or no, TikTok. Going to give him a follow. I wanted to show y'all this because I feel like he encapsulates what the truth of this is. Before the boys started crying, screaming, we're the victims, blah, 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 blah. I feel like he encapsulates what the actual issue is. Let's just listen to what he has to say. Hold on, y'all.
Much about the Nolan Wells case because there hasn't been much information and most people are spreading misinformation. I'm not going to do that after something like this. I'm not going to make it worse on the family. But now that some of his supposed friends have been interviewed, here's what I can say. Them ain't no friends. They might call him a brother, they might call him a best friend, but them ain't no friends. Friends, when they go with 3 boats and 20-something people, make sure you get on a fucking boat and make it home safely. We've all been out with groups of friends. If we do lose contact with them, we're worried to death until we make contact. We don't just go hours without talking to them after they've come with us to a fucking island. There's only 3 things that could have happened to Nolan. The friends did something, he drowned, or someone else on the island did something to him. Those are the only 3 options. We don't know what happened to him yet, but we do know that his supposed friends left him there, didn't care about it for hours, and then they skipped his funeral, but they made...
Now, hold on. I know he's cooking right now because it goes to the whole point. The friends are the ones that they're creating this media environment they're actually complaining about. I will say this. I'm also sick of Ocean Springs gaslighting us. Like he said, there's only 3 things that could have happened to Nolan, right? He drowned, right? His friends did something to him, or somebody else did something to him. Those are the only 3 options. Nolan is dead. Those are the only 3 options. So what could it be? And without any solid proof that he drowned, we are
They want us to believe he just drowned, man. Like just walked off by himself and slid into the water with nobody seeing him and drowned. That's what they want us to believe, man. I can't believe that, man. I can't go for that, man. I can't go for it. I can't go for that. Oh no. No can do. I can't go for that. No. Oh. No can do. I.
To look at the other 2 options. And the fact that they are not doing anything except for going on fact-finding missions, standing on the shores, looking out, getting choked up on Horn Island. Why are you getting choked up now, Warren? We saw you on Officer Tatum when you was sitting there talking about some, yep. You know, people die out here all the time. Anyway, he was right there. That's where his body was found, you know? There's no cell phone service. Anyway, you know, we feel that people are accusing us of things. You went out there and looked like literally the American Psycho for Bayou Edition. And you're looking at why the world is like, this isn't how things go. Were y'all even friends? Or did Nolan think you were friends and you just thought he was Nolan? Okay, hold on. Let's keep going. I'll rewind this just a little bit because he is cooking. Hold on.
Those are the only three options. We don't know what happened to him yet, but we do know that his supposed friends left him there, didn't care about it for hours, and then they skipped his funeral. But they managed to go on the Brandon Tatum show and tell Brandon Tatum about how big of fans they are. One of them even said that one of the moms was a huge fan of Brandon Tatum. So this friend group of mostly 20 white kids, Trayson doesn't seem...
Pause. The Brandon Tatum is no small matter. I don't know if you guys are familiar with his game, but his whole channel is ghetto black woman in bonnet, put in her place. And it is literally a video of a black woman being brutalized, you know, by cops or even strangers. Ghetto black woman learns to keep her mouth shut. He has this weird fixation on humbling, or thugs from Chicago. No, this isn't Chi-Town. His whole channel, right, is antagonistic, demeaning, and almost takes glee in the pain of seeing black bodies hurt, maimed, put in their place, slammed to the ground. It's a weird channel to watch, but the fact that one of the friends said, oh, my mother watches it all the time. If you're watching, hear me out. If I'm watching video after video after video of, let's just say, white men and women eating black babies, right? No, I'm not talking about what happened in slavery, but I'm being dead serious, right? If I'm watching that over and over and over, but yet my son or daughter happens to have a white best friend, what am I thinking every time that friend comes in? Because I'm watching people that look like you and talk like you and sound like you be disrespected, humiliated, brutalized. And this is what I'm a huge fan of. How long before you... the fact that they would even admit that. But let's keep going, because he's cooking. But his mom, and I think I know who the mom is. I think it might be Judge Ashley Cole. Hear me out. There's a screenshot floating around. It has not been verified. So please do not take this for the truth of the matter asserted, right? Everything I'm saying is my opinion based upon information and belief. I'm bringing you information, and I hope you make your own minds up, all right? Don't listen to me. I'm just being a chatty catty, right? But I am bringing you information for you to do your own research and open your own investigations. But hear me out. There's a screenshot I put in one of my other videos. I wish I had it queued up, and it hasn't been verified. But it literally was Judge Ashley Cole and Officer Tatum's Facebook comments saying, just DM'd you, period. Please read. No, just messaged you. Please check your DMs. Something like that. People are saying that Warren's stepmom, Ashley Cole, is the one that hooked him up with Tatum. Now, we don't know if that's true or not. We know Tatum jumped at the chance to play Django. But again, you say you have a black friend that was like a brother. It's like saying that you look at somebody like a sister, but you're watching anti-woman red pill rhetoric all day. How much do you actually see me as human? That's all I'm saying, but let's keep going.
One of the moms was a huge fan of Brandon Tatum. So this friend group of mostly 20 white kids, Trayson doesn't seem like he claims his black side at all, so I'll consider him white because that's what he considers himself, it seems like. They don't show no love for Nolan. They might have accepted him as the one black guy in the group because in the South, that's how racism is now. Racism is silent. They don't come up to you. White people don't come up to you, I hate black people. That's not, I mean, they will accept one black person in their friend group or a coworker who's black and then still be racist outside of those interactions. That's how it works down here. I can't speak for anywhere else, but in the South, that's how it is. There's not separated bathrooms. They might accept one friend in the friend group, but do you notice there wasn't many black people in those videos?
There was maybe at most 3 or 4 black men, maybe. We now have confirmation it's 3. I think it might have been maybe at most 4, maybe 5. And there was 0 black women. And I have found in spaces that are racist, and I'm not saying that that space is racist, but I have found in racist spaces the litmus test about whether they have hostility toward another race is whether they allow people of that race of the other sex. Hear me out. With black men, right? Because you might be in sports, you might be exceptional, blah, 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 this and that. They will allow black men in the spaces, but in spaces that are very hostile toward black people and feel a type of way, the black women aren't invited. This is the thing. They're not invited. They're too loud. We're too ghetto. We're too this. We're too that. They have a million excuses, but, oh, well, we don't know. We don't, friends. But blah. Just like in certain spaces, let's just say Asian spaces, and I know I'm not Asian, and I'm not speaking for every Asian space, but hear me out. They will have Asian women in the space, but they won't invite the men. You see what I'm saying? Because they feel attracted to Asian women, right? But they will not invite Asian men. So again, I think in spaces to say that, no, we're not this, we're not this, we're not hostile to races. It's not the exceptions. It's, do you allow the rule in? Do you know what I'm saying? Oh, that's all I'm saying, but let me let him finish.
It's hard for me to think that maybe if Nolan went with a boat full of black people, I bet he would have came home just fine. I bet they would have made sure that he came home just fine, because the black community sticks up for each other. We all remember the Montgomery Brawl. Motherfuckers were jumping off a boat, swimming to back up a man that they didn't know while being cheered on by other black folks on the boat. It's one of the most amazing videos I've ever seen. And that's one reason I love black folks, because they stick together. And if you are riding with them, they gonna ride with you till the very end. And he was around a bunch of Charlie Kirk and Brandon Tatum fans who didn't give a shit one way or the other if they ever saw Nolan Wells again or not. Now, I'm not saying they wanted him to die. They might have cared for him, but they didn't love him. He wasn't a brother. You make sure a brother gets home. You make sure someone you love gets home. They were some shitty-ass friends. That's what they were, and time will tell if they were responsible for the death of Nolan Wells.
Now, let me just pause this right here. Time will actually tell if they're responsible, but I also think another thing that we're missing is you can be negligent in somebody's death by, I find it odd that through all this, the one thing they're assisting is they had a boat emergency, and that's why they left Nolan, even though in maritime law, the people that took him out on a boat had a legal duty, right? And this is the basis for a wrongful death suit, to bring him back safely. You have a legal duty. That's why they say the captain goes down with the ship. The captain cannot come back and the passengers are just floating in the water. Like, what are you doing, right? It's not even bad. It's illegal with maritime law, which is marine law, which is sea law. Just like there's avian law, which is the law of what happens in the air, right? My whole point about this is, it's funny to me, or maybe it's just very convenient. These boys say everybody's picking on them, but maybe they live a charmed life. It's very interesting to me that you somehow, the only thing that can absolve you from a wrongful death suit in this, from leaving him, is to say that he denied boarding. He said no. So he was last seen at sometime around 3:30, not a lick of drunk. This is by an adult, a coach that had a long conversation with him and actually called Nolan's mom and said, hey, I'm really upset that everybody's trying to paint Nolan. And says, I saw Nolan around 3:30 and we had a long conversation. He seemed perfectly fine. All right. So Nolan somehow in the span of a half hour got so drunk, he was heavily intoxicated. I don't know how the alcohol blood level hit his bloodstream so hard, what he took in 30 minutes. But in 30 minutes, he was so drunk that you guys were screaming, Nolan, get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. And he refused. No. And I don't want my shoes or my shirt or my phone or thing. I'm staying here. And they're like, well, and they had an emergency. You guys don't remember? There was an emergency. The boat was sinking. So even though they wanted to bring him, even though they were begging him to get on the boat, he said no. And they had to think about the boat. Yes, they're Nolan's friends, but they had to think about the other 7 people. Don't you realize? There were 7 people on the boat that was about to sink, and they didn't know what to do. And oh my God, they're so sad. Nolan's gone. Yeah, that sounds good. Until you see Warren saying, yeah, people die all the time out there. He's not the first person to die. Anyway, it was right here. That's where they found his body. Yep. Anyway, he was like a brother to me. And Warren, with his nonsense, like putting Warren on Officer Tatum's show, I would say was arguably one of the worst PR moves that anybody could do. His face just didn't invoke trust. Some people are good witnesses, some people aren't. If he was on the thing, I think the whole jury would be like, what is going on, right? But then again, I've never seen a Mississippi jury, so maybe they will find differently. It's my opinion. But my whole point is, it is funny that the person whose stepmom is a judge, the judge came out defending, saying, let me tell you what really happened. Now, everything is saying is according to your sons and the friends, and I get it, you're going to believe your son, but it's convenient how your son has the most access to the law, and your son magically is saying the exact words that you need to make sure that the family can't be sued in a wrongful death suit. That if there was some type of negligence or wrongdoing, I'm not talking about like actual homicide or anything like that, but if they violated a duty to care and they were civilly liable in a wrongful death suit, so funny how Warren's ever-changing story, all the boys' ever-changing story, completely insulates them from a civil suit that could actually bankrupt not just you, but the police that didn't go search for him, maybe the MDMR, maybe even the Coast Guard, because procedure, even for a missing person, was not followed. You see what I'm saying? And also, when people are like, oh, we keep talking about these boys and they're putting stuff out, how come Jerry hasn't hired a lawyer? Do you know who Jerry is? Jerry is Wyatt's grandfather. Jerry was listed as a person of interest in that report. I don't know why. Was Jerry there? How is Jerry involved? Nobody's explained that. Again, I'm not saying anybody did anything. I'm trying to get to the bottom of what happened to Nolan, good, bad, or indifferent. Well, there's no good because he's gone, but bad or indifferent. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of what happened. And I am shocked that they have gotten, raising hell and bringing it with them, not because Ben Crump accused them of anything, because he didn't. He wants answers. They refused to talk to Ben Crump. They refused to even text Nolan's mom. They refused to do all that. Because as long as Ben Crump's around, they're not going to say nothing. Okay, fine. Little weird, but, okay, if that's the course you want to take. But then they got Officer Tatum now saying, Miss Christine, I apologize to her. I feel like they're trying to nice her to death. They keep going with this narrative that Christine Walmsley is only pushing so much to see what happened to her son because Ben Crump is in her ear, like the snake in the Garden of Eden. And again, it goes back into racist tropes. You know what I'm talking about? It is a common, and I'm not saying they are racist or this is even a trope, but it is weird to me. There's a lot of analogy between the way they feel like somehow black mothers don't care about their children as much as other races do. Black mothers don't raise their children the way other races do. Black women don't grieve their children the way other races do. And somehow they're putting out to me bat signals when they're like, no, she's being manipulated by Ben Crump. She's being manipulated to find out what happened to her son. No, you don't understand. They'd be happy to talk to her. They'd be happy to talk to her, but not with Ben Crump. Why can't I talk with my lawyers there? You got a lawyer. What are you talking about? And we just need official statements. It's an investigation. It seems like they're trying to make, and again, I don't want to talk trash, but I feel like they're trying to Carmelo Anthony Nolan's parents. You know the way Carmelo Anthony's parents, and again, I get it. They didn't know better, right? But the town was saying, don't bring the civil rights into it. Don't bring this. Don't bring all this hoopla. Don't worry. We got you. This town got you. And now her son's sitting in there, for 35 years? Hopefully the appeal goes through, but it's not looking good. It's not looking good. But she lived, and they kept saying, no, we were advised. People told us. And now that your son's sitting there for 35 years, everybody else is like, loo. Anyway, right? You want to go to Longhorn Barbecue? Let's go. It's the same thing it seems like they're trying to do with Nolan's mama. It's not you. We understand. We know that the only reason you're asking about your son is because Penn Crump is manipulating you for money grab. So you call her a money grubber. You call her, she's trying to run a con, even though we see the GoFundMe's that look a little suspect, right? There's been a 50K reward with no contact information put out for PR spin, and Trump's lawyers got involved. So political, they've been accused of money grubbing this, that, but somehow they're trying to trick Nolan's mama into letting this go and pushing Ben Crump out of this. Why? So she can push them out. You can tell her son died, and then y'all can punish her for all the problems she brought to whatever. Anyway, let's listen to one more thing. 1 second.
They trying to punish her already, Tisha. They harassing her out of her job. She got to go in for inquiries onto complaints she got, even though she wasn't even working at the time that the complaints were made. You understand? So, you know, and they seem to have a problem with her having her own lawyer, like all bugged out, But we already know what happened here, man, and I just can't wait for it all to come out, man. But
there's just so much, and I just find it odd that their alibis are more shielding from a wrongful death lawsuit. Something to think about. Hold on, y'all. One more.
For anybody still claiming that, oh, Nolan Wells' friends couldn't have done this, they were his friends. Tell me why I just witnessed a video of a young black girl in Michigan who went to her friend's house and beaten on by them. She has a history of epilepsy and mental disorders, and she was unconscious. And those girls were literally jumping in the air and ramming their elbows down. Up, bitch. Why would I see that if something like the Nolan Wells case would never happen? Could never happen. Those were Nolan's friends. If that was the case, why would it be hearing from black people saying, I was always told to be careful, to be conscious of my white friends, to be aware of what was going on. I was told to be wary, no matter how good they seem, no matter how great and kind they seem. This is exactly why we can't just dismiss Nolan Wells' white things like we did to that poor girl in Michigan being beaten by her white friends as she was unconscious at their house. Yeah. Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Exactly. That was
Him drowning.
Hold on really quick. Let me just give you his handle. This was J317-13. Again, why am I getting these? Again, maybe when your own says something, you will actually look into it. I also don't even like the way that this is turning into black woman, the way they're making. And I'm glad more men are coming forward to speak about what everybody feels. Again, like Nancy Grace says, if you guys don't know, I was Nancy Grace. Over the weekend, please go support on YouTube, on Fox 1. Yapping away, right? But I do want to say this. Nancy made a good point. I think she was on Stephen A. Smith's show, and she actually said, listen, if these boys hurt Nolan or not. I don't know if it was an accident or not. I don't know if he actually drowned or if he didn't. I don't know if he was drinking or not. One. But what I would about that Nolan Wells situation, it looks like an accidental drowning to me with no proof. And he even said, I don't have any proof. I don't know what's going on. I don't know anything. But it's accidental. Again, the fact that nobody, and I've said it again, from Ocean Springs is on the internet talking about it in chat groups. Kids talk all the time, especially somebody that was a popular football player that died. Kids talk all the time. The fact that nobody's even discussing, like, oh my God, this is, again, it seems like that pressure that this gentleman who is ENBY underscore therapist, that he's talking about, the grief or the guilt, maybe both, right? We don't know. That you deal with, it gives an actual physical pressure that usually makes people talk. Guilt or grief eventually will break someone because unless you're a sociopath. If you're a sociopath, it ain't breaking nothing, right? Pressure makes diamonds. It's not breaking anything, but it is interesting that at the pivotal times where somebody would have come forward and somebody would have broken, the powers that be seem to have sent out a message saying it's nothing, it's a drowning, and Ocean Springs sticks with Ocean Springs. So basically no talking is the way I saw it. Really quick, let me read these super chats and then I want to play you the friend's option of survivor's guilt and empathy, because the second half of this, he is cooking. And I love hearing from professionals that can put a thing to a name. Also, Mark Rodriguez said, I got Damn It Bart t-shirts on sale. Hit me up. If y'all want a Damn It Bart t-shirts on sale, hit him up. B, what's up? Thank you for being a member. B has been a member since I've been for 59 months. I can't believe I've been on YouTube that long. And still nothing has changed from camera quality to sound. But B, thank you so much, girl. I'm going to hit you up. We actually had to talk. Noah is my only said, why would the boys be in that part where they call a washing machine to begin with if they knew they can potentially die right there? Again, these thank you to Truthfully Speaking. Also, Constance, what's up, Constance? Yo, they are just letting. But again, I've never seen so many innocent people fight for the truth to come out. Nolan's mama has not accused anything. They've always said they're just trying to better understand what happened in Nolan's final moments. And that is somebody that anyone that they love died will want to know what happened in the final moments. How did it happen? And the fact they're turning that into she's instigating, it's a race war. I'm sorry, she's being manipulated by Ben Crump, and they'll talk and they'll come together if only Ben Crump can get out the situation. Man, y'all not gonna Carmelo Anthony, Miss Christina Walmsley. Y'all not know. And again, I'm not going in on his parents. Don't make a fuss. Don't let someone. They sit there and were like, when their son had 35, well, we were advised. People told us. Yeah, and those same people are going on with their lives while your son is sitting in jail. And I feel like that's what they're trying to do to Miss Christine. Anyway, let me get into this. Hold on, y'all.
Survivor's guilt, usually in the case of like a sudden accidental death, especially if we're talking about drowning and like trauma and grief, the reaction is going to have some sort of survivor's guilt, like it should have been me, or I should have been in that position, or like
this is true.
You know, there's something in which that person who either like witnessed or was like near adjacent to this traumatic death, they are going to have this like grief that is specific to regret or wishing you could trade places, like this rumination that is specific to the theme of survivor's guilt. Why did I survive and that person didn't? Especially again when it is in relation to a drowning. In addition to the lack of survivor's guilt, I'm also noticing a lack of empathy with Nolan and Nolan's like last final moments. Usually if someone really cares about a person and they are talking about their death, especially like, you know, talking about like recounting their experience, they're gonna have the, like, he must have, you know, like if he was drowning, like he must have been so scared or he must have been confused. Like, I wonder what it was like. You try to put yourself in that person's shoes, especially when it's in the context of survivor's guilt, because you're thinking about yourself in relation to that person, right? And like, it could have been me. Why wasn't it me? And then you're thinking about what it would have been like that is absent here, and that usually, again, like as a therapist, is something that I do see. Disclaimers: I'm not saying anything certain, I'm not accusing anyone of anything, and also grief and trauma reactions are going to be, they're going to vary, and people are going to have unique trauma and grief reactions, and there is no one right way. But I will say I do notice certain patterns, and I notice an absence of things in certain patterns as well.
Again, this is inboy_therapist. I think he did a really good breakdown of what's been bothering us in this whole situation. The fact that where is the seemingly absence of survivor's guilt and or empathy. Survivor's guilt and or empathy, the roommating, the why can't it have been me, the wanting to know more, basically what his mama is going through and his friends and family are going through. But everybody on that aisle, I don't know, they don't seem to be experiencing that. Now, I did see an interesting, I think I showed it in one of my other videos a while back, where this mental health professional said the only time you stop the rumination of what happened, oh my God, I can't believe, but how, I just want to know how, when, and that rumination that happens whenever there is any type of tragedy or loss. It could be a breakup, it could be, unfortunately, a death, it could be anything, or just something that you messed up and you feel really guilty about it. The only time that rumination stops, especially when it comes to questioning what happened to someone that caused a death, the only thing that stops it, that curiosity humans sometimes, well, always have, well, I don't want to say always, but traditionally have, is certainty. When you know how somebody passed away, when you know exactly what happened, that rumination goes away, because the curiosity, the morbid curiosity that comes from someone you loved and cared about being taken from you too soon, and they were alone when it happened, that curiosity is usually only stopped by certainty. And if that is true, and I'm not saying this is what those boys are experiencing, or anyone, whatever happened, but if that is true, then why did they seem to get this certainty that brought them a level of mental peace where they no longer have curiosity? I don't know, you guys, just something to think about. Also, Noah is my only said, Tisa, please look this up. If the body is badly decomposed, toxicology can say that alcohol levels can become high along with other drugs that are tested. Noah is my only. That is actually true to a certain point. I actually did a video about this about a week or two, but I know I'll be putting out 4 or 5 videos, so y'all might have missed it. But let me just go over really quickly. When the body starts to decompose, alcohol levels, I think it's methane or ethanol, which is the type of alcohol we can drink. Whatever is the type of alcohol that we can drink, the body, when it degrades, starts producing that naturally, okay? Methane gases, all the stuff. So when they do a blood alcohol test on a decomposed body, it will show a toxicology that they were heavily intoxicated. However, there's a second test that they have to do that can separate whether it was a type of intoxication that happened through alcohol pre-mortem, or whether this is post-mortem or posthumous degradation alcohol levels. So basically they gave an artificial false high of heavily intoxicated. Now, again, there's a second test that can prove that the first test is from degradation, not from consuming alcohol prior to death. The thing is, and this is why it's so frustrating, that they seem to be holding off on all autopsy and toxicology reports, is the fact that we do not know if they performed that second test. See, that test can only be performed in a certain window, and it is usually the window of the preliminary autopsy. By the time the secondary autopsy gets the body, a lot of this stuff has naturally degraded, right? So this is why Ben Crump is pushing for share your results, because the results can tell us what was going on, but your results for the testing can also tell, you're saying he's highly intoxicated. Did you test with the second test, I forget what it's called, that shows whether this is from degradation or whether this is from actually drinking alcohol? But again, that's why people are so concerned that they're keeping this autopsy top secret from the family. And even as far as top secret, I don't understand why they NDAs and the Crump law firm sign NDAs and share confidentially the results of the autopsy. How would that hurt their investigation to actually share that? Again, I've said it again and again and again. I feel like if they had definitive proof that he actually drowned, I know Chris Cuomo was on, like, I don't know, Fox News Nation or something, and he said that people told him that it looked like it was a drowning and that there was alcohol. And I said, I don't give a goddamn. Honestly, don't. Even this Chris Cuomo stuff, I don't give a damn how long you've been on the TV. It doesn't matter. Either come out and give us the official reports or don't. But you cannot every rumor that comes on social online and you're suing for everyone. But Chris Cuomo can say he talked to people in the investigation and they told them it was this, that, and the third. All right. I feel like if they 100% had that evidence, they would have released it by now. I feel like if they had definitive proof that it wasn't any foul play, they would have thrown it in our face. They would have been like, shut up, moon, crickets. Y'all want to chirp about this. I feel like they would have thrown it in our face.
And Chris Cuomo, you listen to that fool? He also told y'all to go run out and get a COVID shot, remember? Remember that? Chris Cuomo is a goofball. I think he's tough. And me personally, I want to see him with the gloves on in the ring so I can box his face off. Don't listen to Chris Cuomo. Him and his brother are both goofballs. Understand? His brother sent all the COVID patients into the old folks' home and killed off a bunch of old people during COVID. And this dude was saying that he went and got the shot, but he was outside walking his dog when everybody was supposed to be locked in their house. Don't listen to Chris Cuomo. He's a goofy.
They haven't. And it makes me think they haven't because they can't. And it makes me think this case is more complicated than they have led us to believe. And by more complicated, I don't think that they can show that it's accidental. But the truth will tell, because I'm just giving my opinion based off of my information and belief combined with news reports and whatnot. In any case, you guys, listen, Noah is my only. Thank you again for another super chat. Anyway, you guys, listen, let me get out of here. I know, listen, the weekend's over. I'm back to work. I'm going to drop a few more videos, including some inconsistencies I saw with another one of this I feel like everybody's looking over, and the moms seem to be right. But you know what? At the end of the day, everybody is repping their set. So shout out to Christine Walmsley Wells for actually repping her set to the fullest. Anyway, you guys, listen. Let me get out.
Stop scrolling.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to get up out of here. I think you, whoever you are watching, that's what's up. I appreciate you coming in and chilling with your boy and Tisha Tales. But we be back. We're going to switch it up. We be back shortly. You know what I mean? We just going to come back with a new topic. I think we're going to do some Nancy Grace because she got a new joint she just dropped. And we're going to pull up on that. So until the meantime and in between time, today is Monday, y'all. Monday is the worst. First day of the week. Always seem to feel I never get enough sleep. Tuesday's the one day, feels like a Sunday. And if it wasn't for Monday, I wouldn't even notice. Wednesday's the hump day, get you out the slump day. Thursday's the day before that bread, so you come day. Friday's the next direct deposit. Now it's the weekend and you didn't realize.